Connor Bedard is set to make his NHL debut in less than 3 weeks' time, and on today's episode, I'll be going over a full projection of his rookie season with Chicago. Will Bedard reach 40 goals as a rookie? Find out right here on Locked On Blackhawks.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you all for making the show your very first listen here to start off your day. I'm your host, Jack Bushman. You can go and follow me out on Twitter at JackBushman2, or you can also go and check out my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. And if you're a first-time viewer of the show, I know this is an episode that's probably going to get some traction since it solely focuses on Connor Bedard's rookie season, or even if you're just a reoccurring viewer and haven't done so already, please make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. It won't cost you anything. It's 100% free, and it really does help me out tremendously. I would greatly appreciate it. And also that way, you can get the latest episode as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, good afternoon, everyone. As always, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. I hope everyone out there is off to a great start to their day thus far. And to open things up on the show here today, I have something that I am very excited for, Blackhawks fans. I'm going to be debuting a new segment on the show as we are now officially less than 3 weeks away from the opener of the 2023-2024 NHL campaign. And with that being the case, we're starting to close in on the beginning of the regular season. Starting today, I am going to be going over each and every player projected to make the Chicago Blackhawks opening night roster. And I'm going to project what they're going to produce this season and talk about what kind of role I expect them to have, whether or not they could be traded or moved at some point during the season, and what would kind of make this season as a whole a success for them individually. I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be a fun segment that all of you viewers and listeners are certainly going to enjoy as we prepare for the beginning of hockey season. It's right around the corner, and I figured that there would be no better person to kick things off than the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL draft, our baby boy, the man who's been deemed a generational talent, Connor Bedard, the new face of the franchise here in Chicago. And with the way that things are looking for Chicago sports at this point in time, folks, I mean, the Bears look absolutely gosh darn atrocious. Chicago Cubs have lost 7 of their last 10. They're holding on for dear life. The White Sox are a dumpster fire. The Bulls are a conversation of their own. It feels like the Chicago Blackhawks are the best hope and the most intriguing team here in the city of Chicago. And with Connor Bedard obviously joining the franchise and the Blackhawks being fortunate enough to land the top pick in the draft lottery, I think there's going to be a lot of buzz and a lot of stir around the Blackhawks and Bedard this season, despite the fact that they might not be too much better than they were last season. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing that I do want to mention, though, before starting to get into some of the numbers, is the role that I expect Connor Bedard to play right out of the gate. And look, this is something that I think Kyle Davidson has done a really good job since taking over as general manager, and also something that Luke Richardson understands as the head coach, where in years past under Joel Quenneville, when the Blackhawks were going for it year after year and you're trying to win the Stanley Cup, development and prospect, playing time kind of gets bumped under winning. It kind of becomes second fiddle. And for so long, Joel Quenneville never really gave guys opportunities. The young guys, I mean, Teuvo Teravainen really had to earn his. Gustav Forsling is another guy who comes to mind that didn't really get much of a crack here in Chicago. And under Kyle Davidson and under Luke Richardson, the Blackhawks, I thought, have done a really good job of when young guys come up to the NHL level, they're not just there to go and play 8-9 minutes a night on the third or fourth line, or for a defenseman, skate 1 or 2 shifts in the final 30 minutes of the game. No, that's not what they want them there for. They want them to be learning and making the most of their experience and truly understanding what it takes to get the job done at the NHL level. And I think the Blackhawks have done a really good job at that. And if they're not going to get those minutes when they do come up to the NHL, then just send them back down to Rockford and give them playing time there. Well, obviously, Connor Bedard is not eligible to play in the AHL this season. It's either Regina or Chicago for him. And from everything we've seen in the last year and this past weekend at the Prospect Showcase, there's absolutely no freaking way this kid's going back to Regina, right? So the ultimate, final takeaway here is that Connor Bedard is going to be playing in the NHL. I mean, everyone knows that. It's no secret. He's going to be in the NHL from game one, and probably will never play another game anywhere else, if I had to imagine. And with that being the case, there's no reason for the Blackhawks not to give him a top six opportunity right out of the gate, if not to be their top line center. And that's another big thing for Bedard. We've heard Kyle Davidson kind of go out to the media and say that he's going to give these guys an opportunity to play down the middle this upcoming season. Spoiler alert, I'll be talking about another one of those guys to wrap up today's show, but Connor Bedard is going to get a chance to play center right out of the gate. And I really don't see a world where he isn't the Blackhawks top line center right from the get-go. So I think he's going to be playing top 6 minutes all season long, probably top line minutes all season long. He's going to be getting every opportunity. He's going to be out there with the top power play unit, most offensive zone situations. He's going to be playing a lot. He's going to be having a big role for the Blackhawks this season. Make no mistake about it. Whether or not he's going to get moved, obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer. Connor Bedard isn't going anywhere, and hopefully isn't going anywhere for a long, long time. We would love to have him here in Chicago for a decade or two. And then what would make this season a success for Bedard? Kind of throwing the numbers to the side. I don't want to give him a goal projection or a points projection. I think the biggest thing in my mind for Bedard in terms of what we want to see and what would make this season successful, first and foremost, is if he stays healthy, right? If he's, and that doesn't mean playing a full 82 game slate, but if he's able to avoid any serious injuries, avoid missing any, serious chunks of time, I think that's going to be a win in and alone of itself, because it's the last thing the Blackhawks need is this kid getting injured. But aside from that, I think you just want to see clear-cut development. I think you want to see him adapting to the speed and the pace and the physicality of the NHL level. That's going to be new for him, obviously. And I also think you just want to see him do what he does. I don't want to put the expectations too high, even though that's undoubtedly already going to happen. That's why I don't really want to put a number on it in terms of goals, assists, or points or anything. I just want to see him mostly show signs of improvement, show signs of getting more and more comfortable, more and more confident, understanding what it takes to be successful and to be able to produce consistently at this level. And then I think the goal scoring is the biggest thing too. I think that's really going to be the most seamless transition for him. So if he can go out there and just do what we know he's capable of, and that's scoring goals in abundance, I think it's going to be a very successful season for Connor Bedard. Stay healthy, show clear signs of improvement, no pressure in terms of goals, assists, points, or even wins for the Chicago Blackhawks team. And I really do think it's a really solid situation for Bedard to be in going into his first NHL season. All right, but getting into the thick of things here, folks, in order to kind of properly project Connor Bedard's rookie season, I do think that we have to take a look at some of the other top rookie campaigns in modern day NHL history, right? I'm not looking at guys from the 70s or 80s when the goal scoring was super up, and Teemu Selanne scored, I think, 76 goals in 82 games as a rookie, right? Like, those days are long gone in the NHL, even though we did just see, Connor McDavid put up basically 90s numbers last year in way to scoring 60 goals. But I do think it's important to kind of take a look at other recent top rookie performances and kind of see what a realistic expectation I believe would be for Connor Bedard entering his first NHL season. So real quickly, I'm going to run down the 7 most productive rookie campaigns in modern day NHL history to give us a little bit of a baseline as to how some of the other top rookies entering the NHL have performed in the last 10, 15, 20 years or so. Number 1 is Alex Ovechkin, 2005-2006. In 81 games played, he racked up 52 goals and 54 assists for 106 points. I honestly think that's going to be a really tough slew of numbers there for Connor Bedard to beat. Even in 2005-2006, the goal scoring was still higher than it was in today's game. But an incredible first season from the grade 8, 52 goals right from the get-go. And he scored 30 goals in every season that he's played in, other than the lockout or the COVID shortened 2021 campaign, I believe it was. Even in 2013, he wound up scoring 30 goals in 47 games or something crazy like that. But yeah, he got off to a hot start, 106 points in 81 games. Second is Sidney Crosby. Actually, that same year in 81 games, he had 4 points less than Alex Ovechkin with 39 goals, 63 assists for 102 points. The third most productive rookie campaign in recent NHL history was Evgeny Malkin the following year in 2006-2007, where in 78 games, he tallied 33 goals and 52 assists for 85 points for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Fourth most productive rookie season was Matthew Barzal just a couple of years ago for the New York Islanders in 2017-18. In 82 games played, he had 22 goals, 63 assists for 85 points. Fifth was Paul Stastny in 2006-2007 for the Colorado Avalanche. In 82 games, he had 28 goals, 50 assists for 78 points, and then just a couple of extra ones here because both of them happen to be Blackhawks. The sixth most productive rookie campaign in recent NHL history was Artemi Panarin in 2015-2016, where he won the Calder and in 80 games scored 30 goals and added 47 assists for 77 points. And he actually outdid his line mate from that season, Patrick Kane, in 2007-2008, when he won the Calder. In 82 games, he had 21 goals and 51 assists for 72 points. So there are the top seven top rookie campaigns in recent history in terms of point production, and kind of a common theme that you can see just from those seven players. A slew of them were very high draft picks, number 1 overall or number 2 overall, and were projected to be game-changing, franchise-altering type of players. Sounds kind of similar to some descriptions for Connor Bedard, right? So I thought that was very intriguing. But yeah, there's the top 7 rookie campaigns in the past, past 18 years in the NHL. All right, there are those rookie campaigns that I wanted to list before kind of getting into Connor Bedard's numbers. I'll be doing that in just a moment. And I'll also be comparing his final season in Regina to each of those 7 players' last seasons before making the jump to the NHL. But first, I got to talk to you all about Jace Medical. Got to pull it up here real quick. I apologize. Oh, no, it's FanDuel today. That's first. I am even off cue, even worse. Apologies. First, I got to talk to you all about FanDuel. Football season is underway, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you place a bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every single time that they win in the regular season. Hopefully, you're not picking the Bears, though, because they're obviously 0-2. That means you haven't gotten any bonus bets back. But all you got to do is pick any Super Bowl winner, and you'll get a bunch of bonus bets for every single time that they win in the regular season. And you can use these bonus bets on everything from the money line to the over-under to the point spread and even player props, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And for me personally, over the last year, me and one of my close buddies have just been every week betting the over on Justin Fields' rushing yards. Unfortunately, he only had 3 this past week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it really felt like the first time we lost that bet in quite a while. I've been winning a ton of money on FanDuel betting on Justin Fields overs, and you don't want to miss out right now. So go and sign up and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to start earning bonus bets right now with America's #1 sportsbook. Plus, when you win, you get paid out instantly. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, we're back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to go and smash the like button, comment down below, all that good stuff. And you're listening to the audio version of today's episode, go and leave me a review, preferably a 5-star one. That would be great. And also make sure that you're following Locked On Blackhawks on Instagram as well. I've been posting a lot of good clips and sharing a lot of other cool Blackhawks photos and videos that I've been seeing on social media there. So make sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks on Instagram as well. I'm really trying to grow the show right now with the start of the regular season right around the corner. I would greatly appreciate all your support, and also make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube if you haven't done so already. All right, segment 2. I just went over some of the top rookie seasons in recent NHL history. And now, out of those 7 players that I just mentioned, I also wanted to go back and take a look at the numbers that they put up during their final years of junior hockey, college hockey, playing overseas, whatever it may be, the numbers that they put up in their final season of action before becoming a rookie in the NHL. Obviously, I just mentioned Alexander Ovechkin racked up 106 points in the 2005-2006 campaign. He was the first overall pick in 2004 and played actually a couple of years, including the lockout season over in Russia before it was called the KHL. I actually don't know what the name of the league. I think it was the Russian Super League, actually, is what I believe it was called. But he played for the Moscow Dynamo in Russia for a handful of years there. But in his final campaign before becoming an NHL rookie, in 37 games played, Alexander Ovechkin only had 13 goals and 14 assists for 27 points. And quite honestly, going and looking at the numbers that he put up in the NHL the following year, I don't really know how he only had 27 points in 37 games here. Considering the NHL is obviously a step above the KHL or the Russian Super League, whatever it was called at that time. For Ovechkin to go and pot 52 goals and 54 assists after having 13 goals and 14 assists in 37 games in the Russian Super League, I found that a little bit interesting. But all in all, 13 goals, 14 assists, not terrible numbers for a 17-year-old kid playing professional hockey. Just in comparison to what he did the next year, it is a little bit weird there, right? For Sidney Crosby, he was the first overall pick the following year in the 2005 NHL draft. He played his junior hockey for Rimouski Océanique in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, where he was obviously a star, a well-known prospect. And it kind of feels like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and Connor Bedard are really the three guys who have drawn this special buzz around them leading up to being the number one overall pick in the NHL draft. Alex Ovechkin kind of had that hype, but I would say Crosby, McDavid, and Bedard are the ones who have kind of had a different buzz behind their name right from the get-go. But an incredible season for Sidney Crosby in the queue. Put up unbelievable numbers there. In 62 games, he had 66 goals, 102 assists for 168 points in 62 games. I mean, truly video game type of stuff. Undoubtedly the number one overall pick for clear reasons there. And went on to have a very solid rookie campaign with the Penguins after that as well. For Evgeny Malkin, he actually, just like Ovechkin, also came out of the Russian Super League. He was the second overall pick in the 2004 NHL draft, one behind Alexander Ovechkin, interestingly enough, two top-tier Russian prospects leading that draft. He played for Magnitogorsk. That was terrible. Magnitogorsk, Medalburg in Russia. I'm definitely butchering that. No one make fun of me for that, even though I probably do deserve it. But he put up incredible numbers there before making the jump to the NHL in 46 games with Medalburg is what I'm just going to call them. Malkin racked up 21 goals and 26 assists for 47 points, and doing that at 17, 18 years old. Foreshadowed a special rookie campaign that he was going to have in the NHL, but kind of interesting that he put up way better numbers than Ovechkin did leading up to their rookie seasons. Malkin was a point per game player where Alex Ovechkin really wasn't close. So I did find that interesting, but all three of those guys, Malkin, Crosby, and Ovechkin, put up really special numbers before joining the NHL. Matthew Barzal is kind of in that same category, but unlike the first three guys, he was actually the 16th overall selection for the Islanders in 2015, and he played for the Seattle Thunderbirds, a familiar junior club for all of us Blackhawks fans out there. A slew of Blackhawks prospects helped lead them to the WHL championship this past season, but in 41 games during his final season with Seattle that he didn't even play a full slate with them, Barzal dominated. He racked up, well, he only had 10 goals, but he did have 69 assists in 41 games played, 79 points in 41 games total. The playmaking was really evident from him from the get-go. He did go on to score 22 goals, though, as a rookie. That's kind of been an outlier for him in his career, being more of a pass-first type of guy. For Paul Stastny, he was the 44th overall pick in 2005, but he went on to have a couple of dominant college seasons with the University of Denver, another program that us Blackhawks fans are quite familiar with. In his final year with the Pioneers, Paul Stastny in 39 games had 19 goals and 34 assists for 53 points, which in college hockey, being that far over a point per game is gosh darn impressive. And he went on to have a very solid rookie year with the Avs. For Artemi Panarin, the only one out of this group that was undrafted, but he was a stud over in Russia, very well-known player in the KHL. And the Blackhawks were lucky enough to win the sweepstakes from him for him. He played for St. Petersburg in Russia before his rookie campaign, and in 54 games there had 26 goals, 36 assists for 62 points. Was putting up really good numbers over in the K for quite a long time, and had done some special things at the World Juniors and at the Olympic level for Russia in the past as well. So he was a well-known guy, even though he was undrafted. And then for Patrick Kane, the first overall pick in 2007, played for the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League and also put up video game numbers there. In 58 games, he had 62 goals, 83 assists for 145 points. I don't know if that's still statistically the best OHL season of all time. It might be. Can't remember, but yeah, 145 points in 58 games. Pretty good if you ask me. And then that leads us to Connor Bedard, who was obviously the first overall pick in this past year's draft and played for the Regina Pats of the Western Hockey League these past couple of seasons. And most recently, this last year, in 57 games played, one less game played than Patrick Kane, Connor Bedard had 71 goals and 72 assists for 143 points. I mean, you can go through all of these players. Sidney Crosby had 66 goals. Patrick Kane had 62. Connor Bedard had 71. 71 to go along with 72 assists. Not nearly as many assists as Crosby or Patrick Kane had. But again, I just think the goal scoring is going to be such a seamless transition for him. I really do think that's where he's going to find the best success immediately at the NHL level. But I also wanted to go through to give us a little bit more background on the teams that some of these top rookies played for as well, because I do think that kind of fits into the picture. You want to know what kind of team they have. Were they a good offensive bunch? Were they a good team in general? I think that helps provide a little bit more insight as we try to project Connor Bedard's rookie season here with the Blackhawks. So for the 2005 Capitals, which Alex Ovechkin played for, they were actually pretty terrible. They were 23rd in the NHL offensively, which I didn't look at their whole team statistics, but considering Alex Ovechkin had 52 goals and they were 23rd in the NHL in that category, I can't imagine that he had all that much help along the way. And the Washington Capitals wound up finishing dead last in the Southeast Division when that was still a thing. Some of you may remember before they switched to this 4-division kind of setup for the NHL standing. So the Washington Capitals, not a good offense, not a good team. The 2005 Pittsburgh Penguins, that same year, Sidney Crosby made his NHL debut as well. The Penguins ranked 18th in the NHL in terms of goals per game, and they also finished dead last in the Atlantic Division and missed out on the playoffs. But things did get better for the Penguins in 2006 as Evgeny Malkin jumped onto the scene and their young core really started to take over. They actually finished third in the NHL that season in goals per game and were second in the Atlantic Division with 105 points. And that was the beginning of a really strong run for the Penguins, where a couple of years later, they'd go on to win their first Stanley Cup. The 2018 New York Islanders, believe it or not, when I was going back and looking at these stats and thinking about the Islanders in these days, I'm like, man, this offense must have been dog water. The Islanders haven't had a good offense in forever. Believe it or not, they were actually 8th in the NHL in goals per game that year. I'm sure Matthew Barzal's kind of a surgeons. Don't even know where I was going with that, but I'm sure his play helped in that matter. But the New York Islanders weren't very good either. They actually finished 7th in the Metropolitan Division and missed out on the playoffs as well. The 2007 Colorado Avalanche were a really strong team when Paul Stastny made his NHL debut. They were 4th in the NHL in goals per game that year and were 4th in the Northwest Division, barely missing out on the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then we get to the Blackhawks. The 2016 Blackhawks, if you all remember, were a very good offensive team, mostly thanks to that top line of Artemi Panarin, Patrick Kane, and Artem Anisimov down the middle. They were 6th in the NHL in goals per game that year, and they finished 3rd in the Central Division with 106 points. They went on to have that first-round series with the St. Louis Blues, where Brent Seabrook double-doinked it. Former Hawks Stanley Cup champ Troy Brouwer scored the game winner, and I absolutely wanted to cry. And I was in attendance at Game 6 at the UC when the Blackhawks forced Game 7. Fun fact, the last true Stanley Cup playoff game the Chicago Blackhawks have won. Game 6 of the first round against the St. Louis Blues in 2016. Kind of sad. And then the 2007 Chicago Blackhawks, when Patrick Kane was a rookie, they actually had a pretty good offensive season. They were 10th 10th in the NHL in goals per game. They finished with 88 points. And I do recall Patrick Kane. That was when I fell in love with the Blackhawks. I remember Patrick Kane scoring an OT winner late in the year against the Blues as the Hawks were making a push for the playoffs, but they ultimately finished just a couple points short of the wild card. So kind of breaking this all down, out of those top 7 rookie seasons that we've seen in the last 20 years, only 2 of those teams went on to make the Stanley Cup playoffs, and neither of them were top teams in their own division. And I mean, other than Ovechkin's rookie year with the Caps and Crosby's rookie year with the Penguins, the one thing I will say, though, is most of these offenses have been really solid that these rookies have played for. And that's the one thing that kind of holds me back from saying Connor Bedard is going to be up there with Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby and cross that 100-point plateau in his rookie season. And now Crosby and Ovechkin did it with bad offenses, but I just don't know if that's the proper path for Bedard to get over 100 points. I do know he's going to get a top 6 role, like I said, a top line role, but kind of picturing who he's going to be playing with, it sounds like foreshadowing here in a second. Lucas Reichel is going to be playing down the middle of this season as well. It kind of sets up Bedard in my mind to play with Taylor Hall and either Andreas Athanasiou or Taylor Radish, and I just don't know if that's going to be a good enough top line for them to be over point per game guys. I think that's just kind of the thing that holds me back the most from saying Bedard is going to have the most productive rookie season that we've seen in the last 20 years, if you know what I mean. But at the same point in time, not a lot of these teams have been very good, and the expectation for the Chicago Blackhawks squad is probably not going to be too much better than last year. I do think their offense is going to be better, but the defense is still going to be young on the left side. The goaltending is still going to be a huge question mark. I think they're going to be better, but I don't picture this Blackhawks team pushing for a playoff spot. I think that's their absolute ceiling. So it is in the realm of possibility, but the thing holding me back ultimately from saying Bedard is going, again, to have the best rookie season that we've seen ever, in modern NHL days, is just that I don't know if the Blackhawks are going to have even a top half offense in the entire NHL. I could see them finishing maybe somewhere between 15th and 20th. But that's going to be interesting to see. Not to say that their offense can't be good. I think, they do obviously have some skill there and it can go better than we imagine, but that's really the one thing that's holding me back. But getting down to the final thoughts, the final takeaways, what do I project for Connor Bedard here as a rookie? Well, looking at kind of some of the other guys that have come in from playing junior, I think Patrick Kane and I do think Sidney Crosby are kind of the two really fair comparisons in terms of their skill set and kind of entering the NHL, what people believe that they can do right from the get-go, right? I think can't really compare him to an Artemi Panarin who was older, or a Paul Stastny who played college hockey, or even a Matthew Barzal who was a little bit of a later pick, despite being a really good prospect for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Connor Bedard's just kind of in a different breath. And I think really the only ones that you can kind of go and compare him to here are Sidney Crosby and Patrick Kane, in my opinion. And kind of looking at what the Blackhawks are going to be this year and what the Blackhawks offense could be in comparison to those two teams, and then Bedard's talents in comparison to those two, I think the first thing, again, that I'm going to mention is he's a much better goal scorer than either of those two were. Patrick Kane obviously really was never known as a goal scorer until the later stages of his career. Sidney Crosby was an underrated, sneaky goal scorer, but still probably known as more of a setup man ever in his career than a goal scorer. I think Connor Bedard is going to step onto the NHL scene, and he's going to have one of the top shots in the entire NHL, the curl and drag. I've never seen anything like it. The precision, the power, the accuracy, the release, and the way that he's able to go and create his own shots by himself, to give himself openings and give himself opportunities. I think he's going to have a better goal scoring campaign than probably what we saw those two do in their rookie seasons. Just as a reminder, Patrick Kane had 21 goals in his rookie year. I guess Sidney Crosby, that's unfair for me. Sidney Crosby had 39. So I guess it was a little bit of a different time, though. But ultimately, where I'm going with this is I do think Connor Bedard is going to be a better goal scorer than those two were. I don't know if he's going to rack up more assists than those two had during their rookie campaigns because, while I think he has the playmaking ability to do it, I just have some concerns about the guys that he's going to be playing with on a nightly basis, whether or not they can keep up. And can Taylor Hall be an above a point per game type of guy? Can Athanasiou be that? I have some doubts about that ultimately. So where I'm going to go, the final numbers that I'm going to put to this, if Connor Bedard winds up staying healthy and plays in all 82 games for the Chicago Blackhawks this year, I'm going to say he scores 39 goals, adds 45 assists, and has 84 points. I think that would still be an absolutely excellent rookie campaign. I've mentioned a couple of times on the show, I really do think he hits 35 goals at the very least and could even push 40 in my mind with that shot that he has. I just don't think he's going to get up to the 50s and 60s in assists with this type of offense and this type of support group around him. I would love to be wrong. I would love for Connor Bedard to go have, 40 goals, 70 assists, 110 points. I'm absolutely here for it. But in terms of the expectations that I'm setting for him and this Blackhawks group that's around him, I think 39 goals would be phenomenal. I think 45 assists, you'd have to be happy with it as well. And if Connor Bedard is over a point per game player for the Chicago Blackhawks this year, that is an absolutely massive win in year one of him in the NHL. And that would give us a lot to be excited for moving forward as we take the next step of this rebuild.